Okay, today we're going to teach you how to mount some universal ski racks on a Dragon Polaris 800. It's a 163 track. These are our universal rack with a 45-degree angle. So these universal ski racks can mount on just about any sled because of how they can mount to 3 different planes. Your first plane you can mount on the side of your sled, or you can mount them on the top of your sled, or how I like to do it is one on the back on top and one on the back, or one on the front on the side. And that's how we'll be mounting them today on this Polaris Dragon. What I'm going to do is mount it here on the back of the sled. What I found best to mount it is at the very end of the tunnel on the light bracket, because this puts it behind the cooling. You can also rig an angle iron piece and go across from the bolts here, or on the slots here. But we're going to mount it right here, the back one, on the top of the tunnel. To mount these on here, first you want to find out where they're going to mount the best. The best thing I found is there's a little slot on the back here. It goes right over this rivet here. And then I'll mark my 2 screw holes, probably a Sharpie or a pen, or you can just use your drill bit. Once your holes are marked, go ahead and drill those. I've already pre-drilled these 2 here. You gotta make sure that you're back far enough and away from this slot here. Once your 2 holes are drilled, there's a lot of welding and stuff down there. I just take these T-nuts and I've taken some cutters and I've cut them to fit around the welds so they'll fit snugly against the bottom of the sled. Alright, a pair of tin snips does really well at cutting these T-nuts to fit however you want underneath there to mesh into the welds. So once you got them trimmed up, you just stick them in place here. Stick them both through. And then you can line them up with the holes in the bottom of these brackets. In placing these, I put these straps on opposite ends, so you can either have them open from the top, or in this case I'm having them open from the bottom, then I can just pull the skis up and into them. So line those into those holes. Take your bolt, you snug them both in. And there's your first bracket. Once you got it in there, then you can take your Allen wrench and snug it up tight. Okay, so once you got this back one mounted where you want it, what you want to do is put your skis in it. You take your front one, and again I'm mounting this one on the side. That way it's not in anything's way for your tank, your bags or anything, and it gives it a lot more rigidity so it doesn't bounce as much. So put it on the front, figure out where you want it to mount. I've made a little notch in the back of these that'll go right over this lip on these Polaris Dragons. So that's where I'm going to mount it, is right high enough where that is out of the way of anything on your track in your tunnel, and high enough where that ridge will sit right over the top of that bump there. So once you got it there, go ahead and mark it. Again, I'm just going to use a drill bit that will go into those holes. What I do is I mark the top one or the bottom one or the other. Mount it, mark it where you want it. I don't like to drill within the plastic because it will eat out the plastic a little bit. Once you have that marked, then you can go ahead and drill it. Again, make sure that you've checked behind it to know that there's nothing behind it that's critical that you're gonna drill into. Very important. have that hole, and you go ahead and mark the other top hole. Sometimes it helps to put the T-nut behind it and kind of line it up so you know your holes are good and square, which is what I'm going to do. So go ahead and put your T-nut in it. Then you can set that one over it. I always like to mount them 90 degrees to the tunnel. So now I've got my hole, so I'm just going to drill it out. Now you go ahead and put both your T-nuts in there and crank it down tight. Alright, once you got them both tightened, there's your setting. There's your skis. All you do is pick them up. I just like opening from the bottom and set them in. And there you go. Line up your little bumpers. And ratchet them down. One thing you don't want to do is tighten these down really tight, or your ratchets can get stuck. So just do it till they're just barely snug, and it's plenty to hold them strongly in place. One of the most sturdy setups I've seen, especially when you do the top and the bottom. So we've shown you the universal rack, which is these. We got the one on the top, and then we have the one on the bottom, or on the side. Makes for a very sturdy setup. The other rack that fits, that'll also work for the Polaris, is just my sidewall mounts, which are on this side. And these are both going on the side. However, you have to move the back one far enough forward that it will clear your handle. This is a little bit longer handle for towing, a little longer than normal. But they just both go on the side as well. And they're at 20-degree angles, so your skis are going to be closer. And if you have the big bindings like the Duke or the Solomon, and you have stuff on your tunnel, they'll hit them. And that's why we went to the universal, to angle that stuff away from anything that you have on your tunnel. I found they've worked very well. I've had a lot of good reviews on them. And there you go.